Okay, so why don't you just go ahead and start by telling me a little bit about yourself and the condition that led you to look into getting a spinal cord stimulator to begin with?
Okay, I've been teaching water aerobics and Pilates and Zumba my whole life, and my hip kept bothering me. And I would go in over 10 years ago. My family doctor kept giving me injections in his office. And until about 4 years ago, I was walking on my toes and I could disguise it. And so then the family doctor finally sent me to a podiatrist. And after 6 months of steroid injections every month in each foot, he said if it wasn't helping, he suspected there was something else, and gave me a horror story about a friend of his who had a problem that didn't want to believe it and ended up passing away. So we went back for a second MRI that was a little lower, and that's when they discovered my problem. And I've had 6 kids, and so I have compression in my pelvis that's squeezing nerves, and one is a partial blockage and the other one is almost completely closed. So because of my career, I've been lucky enough that I was able to keep mobile a lot, but then I would fake it in public and come home and be a recliner rat. And
I
so,
understand. You said 6
yes,
kids.
yes,
Do they give
yes.
out an award for that at some point, or 6?
Oh
Wow.
gosh, yes.
Just a quick comment. Since you do water aerobics and stuff, I mainly exercise in the water. I don't swim, but because it allows me to be at 0G and with my
Yes.
multiple spinal issues. When we get off camera today, or if I forget to ask you, since we've been in contact, if you have a good resource, or even if you're interested in shooting a video about exercises to do in the water for people for core and stuff, I would be more than happy to help spread the word about what you're doing, because it's tough for a lot of people to envision it, and a lot of people don't have the ability to join a class, or like for I started going to the aqua arthritis class. Okay, and
Oh
it was very
yes.
slow and basic, and over time I outgrew that, but I'm nowhere able to keep up with the Zumba folks either. So I'm kind of in between. So I go do my own thing, but to expand my repertoire of exercises that I can do in the water would be
Absolutely.
great. So anyway, but yeah, go back to your story, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I didn't realize that was your background.
Sure. Yes, and I do an aqua therapy class, and it's for people that are post-therapy rehab, is what it's called, for people whose insurance has already kicked them out. They finished, but they're really not ready to join the real world. And I design the exercises specifically for whatever their needs are. So yeah, I would be glad to help out with that.
Outstanding.
So it definitely has been my rehab, because it's kept me physically active, so that when I go to the doctor, I can tell them I've been doing these specific exercises and move on, which they kept bringing up the spinal cord stimulator. And about a year and a half ago, when I was diagnosed with chronic pain, it was very depressing. And that's when I found you. And I was I was searching the internet, looking up what is a spinal cord stimulator, and I watched dozens of your videos. And being a little bit not, being able to sleep at night, I would just pull out my iPad and just watch Josephofborg, and got a good taste of what it's all about. And so I felt like there was hope. You really opened up a light for me.
Well,
And
thanks so much. My wife, she kind of teases me because she sleeps later than I do, and we get up, we have our coffee when she gets up, and then I usually go lay down and charge my implant because I charge daily. And she kind of teases me because I hear things like that, or get messages, not to be braggish, but probably once a week I hear from somebody, you made such a difference, I was so scared, or whatever, because there's a lot of bad news out there. People who
it
have bad
is.
results love to chatter, and there's a certain segment of the people who love to, for whatever reason, however they're wired, they really love to scare the hell out of people. Some people
Mhm.
seem to take pleasure in that, and I always caution people that most of the success stories go back to having a life. They're not on the internet sharing their story, and that goes for hip replacement, back surgery, spinal cord, anything in life. If you look at a restaurant, you'll see a lot of people. The people who have something negative to say have a ton to say, and the people who have something good to say, it's like, it was wonderful. So
That's right.
I tell people you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. But I'm so glad to hear that the videos benefited you and you got something out of it, because that's what makes it all worthwhile for me to do them to begin with. So
Yes, thank you very much. So yeah, so after hearing more about your side and watching a lot of videos about how it worked, then I thought I'd better get another opinion, even though I'd already been to a rheumatologist, neurologist, podiatrist, and then pain management. And so we went to a second surgeon, and then we went back to the very first doctor that talked about stimulator, and I wasn't happy with him. So I backtracked to the pain management that the neurologist recommended, and I've been with him ever since. And he was very assuring, and I have never felt that this was a mistake. And it's not perfect, but it gives me a life that I haven't had in a long time, and a better quality.
that's really what it's all about. I tell people it may not work perfect, and it's funny how something that's wonderful when you first get it, like a new job, 6 months later you're like, I'm tired of this place. I don't want to go. But when you first get the job, you're excited. And my buddy calls it the old shoe, old hat syndrome. When you first buy a new hat, new pair of shoes, and 6 months later it's like, I need a new one. Because I hear from people with comments like, I hate having to charge. Or it's complaints about it that I consider. I mean, if you were at the kind of pain where you were looking at getting a computer attached to your spinal cord, you should have been at some pretty severe pain, and for that to comparatively be, I got to charge, especially somebody I have to charge every 2 weeks, it drives me crazy. I'm like,
You have no idea.
I tell people whenever I get pissy, for lack of a better term, about my implant, tell them try turning it off for an hour. I usually make it about 30 minutes.
Yes.
And remember, go back to what it's like without it. And not everybody gets wonderful results. And I was just reading today some chat with somebody, why can't they get these things right? I'm like, well, first of all, how right do you want them to get? It's a complex system. I mean, I've got 2 leads with 8 contacts each, which gives roughly 4 million potential combinations. Okay. And everybody's spinal cord is different, and everybody's condition is different. I tell people all the time, if you think this is like a hip or a knee replacement, or I've had a cervical fusion where they do their thing, you heal, and what you get is what you got. It doesn't work that way. I tell people all the time, it's a process. And if you're not ready for that, or you think you're going to bounce out of surgery and it's going to be good to go, 100% ready to rock, you're really kind of being misled. It happens, but it's very rare. So you were having these problems, and you hit on something I think is vital, is to have a doctor you're comfortable with. Because if I hear people, well, my doctor's always in a hurry, he doesn't want to answer my questions. Well, then I'm sorry, find a new doc, because this is too big and too complicated a thing to go into it with somebody who's not going to take the time. Same thing with reps. I hear from people, my rep was in a hurry. No, excuse my language, but fuck that. Okay, this is your life. And this is their job. They're changing lives one way or the other. And I talk to so many people, it's really common to get overstimulation on your diaphragm, bottom rib, cramping, almost like a stitch in your side when you run. Not that I really run as a rule. If you see me running, you probably should start running too. But I tell them, I said, you're overstimulated. Turn down your amperage. Oh, my rep won't do this or that. No. Don't get it twisted. Who works for who? But I think there's white coat fever, and they're supposed to be the experts. I talked with somebody just today that was saying, her rep set up one program, told her that's all she'll ever have, and I'm like, what? This dude needs to not be doing this. Either that, or he needs some training or something, because there's too much riding on it for him to be giving out information like that. But so you got your implant. How long ago did you get it?
I've had it about 15 months.
Okay.
Sorry, I had to do.
No problem. You got to do the math.
Yes.
And how's it working out for you? And how's your experience with it been?
Well, it's working well. I do get tweaked very regularly because I ended up getting migraines afterwards. And so I do see my pain management for an injection for that. And so every month I get to see my rep. So I'm very lucky for that part. So with the different tweaks, it depends on my activity level. And I can't just say one program fits all. I have schedules that run and they go through different programs for me. And with my particular SCS, it has the capability to run what we could say fill and no fill is the language that we use.
Okay.
And so I appreciate that they work so well with me. And I have some that are when I'm more agitated, if I've been teaching a lot of classes, I have to switch it up. And other times that program might drive me crazy. And whether I am feeling pain from it or the program itself is just too intense. So it's, for me, I don't have one thing that fits all because I'm very active and I believe that's what my issues are, that it aggravates something.
Yeah, I often tell people, as you became, see, I went from being bedridden pretty much and housebound for 8 months back to having a life by degrees. And it took me probably 6 or 7 months of some pretty specialized physical therapy. I went to a program called MedX, not plugging them, but I mean, they had me strapped in these machines like from the Rocky movie with the big Russian with computers hooked to my
Yeah.
exercise equipment so I could see this and that, and really targeting getting back a normal gait, getting back a normal stride, working on my endurance. And, that's one of the places I think a lot of people trip with these devices is once they get the pain managed and they get the program dialed in pretty well, then they start being more active. Like you said, it depends on your activity level. If you're doing something that would normally cause you a lot of pain, then you've got more pain to block. You might have to manipulate your program for the time being. But also, if you haven't been, say, walking for the sake of conversation, and you start walking a lot more, all of a sudden you notice hip pain because your hip flexors and the muscles and the tendons are not used to that. So just like anytime you start working out from not having worked out, there's a certain amount of pain and stiffness and whatnot. But I think a lot of people get discouraged because they don't realize how much the rehab is for their physical condition once the pain is eliminated. And I think a lot of people, I'm actually thinking I should make a note, and that should be something I cover on one of my episodes is, the rehab beyond getting rid of the pain. Because I talk to people, well, as soon as my pain's gone, I want to run a 5K. Well, when did you last run? A year and a half ago. Slow down, Tiger. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Because I was pretty much suicidal. I mean, if I didn't find something that worked, something drastic was going to happen. And I'm just keeping it real. But with my particular situation, it feels like I've got mice chewing on my spine, for lack of a better way to put it. And the more active I am, the bigger they get and the more aggressive they get. And the only way I could get it to tame down is to lay back down. And I could not keep living like that forever. So fortunately, I broke out in happy tears the first time they turned on my trial. The gal who was running my IV thought there was something wrong. She's like, "Oh my gosh, is everything okay?" I said, "No, you don't understand. This was the first time I haven't had my pain in literally, it had been 5 years or better of constant pain. And there was just nothing. There was nothing I could do to get away from it. And I was at the point that if I could just interrupt it for a period of time, if I even had one position I could get in to stop this damn pain for 20 minutes would have been life-changing, let alone the fact that I'm kind of ended up being the poster boy for spinal cord stimulator success. And I made a deal with myself that if I was a success, I wasn't going to be one of the people who just disappeared. Because when I was looking at, I got mine in 2013. I couldn't find a single success story on the internet. There were horror shows, and there was people who I got my trial and then they disappeared. And I was like, are these people dropping dead or what? What's going on? And my doctor said, look, and I told somebody recently, that the group I run for called Spinal Cord Stimulator Success Stories, because I went with a real obvious name. He says, you people are giving advice and you're not doctors. I said, look, if us sharing what's worked for us this may not be for you. And he took it really personal and got upset. And I'm like, look, I'm just saying, because my doctor told me when I was looking at quit reading stuff on the internet because there's nobody out there with success. He says the people who have success, they're at work. They're playing with their kids. They're not sitting on the computer typing about it. So, and then once my cervical issues took me out of the workforce once and for all, which are unrelated to what I have my spinal cord stimulator for, that really allowed me, actually that's sugarcoating it, it became necessary for me to find something productive to do with my time. So then I really got into trying to do the videos, and I do the weekly live stream. I might as well plug that too. I do a weekly live stream called the Chronic Pain Call-In Show. Such clever titles, but everybody tells me make them easy to find on Google. So if you type that in, you'll find me. To try and help people and give, because that's one of the things I think also is a lot of people who have chronic pain issues, they lose their sense of purpose because what we do for a living is so much of our identity. And to just sit in the house day after day and not have any purpose really leads you bad places. So, but so you play with your settings depending on what your activity level's been, and it sounds like overall you've been pleased with it.
I am. I do sleep in a bed, like a hospital type bed. I forget what they call them, but I do use that because there's times there's issues that it just helps me get a better night's sleep than just a regular bed with a bunch of pillows. And so it's not perfect, but then again, my issues would declare that without this, I would be stuck in a wheelchair and I would be in constant chronic pain. And so mobility is important for my mental health.
Okay. So, I don't really have too many other questions about it. I think you've covered pretty much everything I was going to ask. Because most people who want a bunch of technical jargon, there's plenty of sites to get that. I'm trying to capture real people's real stories. So I really want to thank you for taking the time to share today and having the courage to come on. I'm always, trying to recruit people. Hey, if you're having a good result, let me know. I'll help you put you on.
Sure.
So before we go, is there anything else that you wanted to share or whatever that comes to your mind?
All right, I just want to extol the benefits of the water. And if you have access, even if it's just a bathtub, a bath before night helps relieve the pressure. But anybody who can get into water and just walk, you don't need to be worrying about anything else, but just like you said, zero gravity, getting in. There's things you can do with a noodle. They're just the floating, taking away that pressure it just helps so much. Especially if it's just getting endorphins going, it puts us in a better place.
One of the things that I found also, and I joke about, if I'd have found water exercise in my 20s, I never would have lifted a free weight or anything else, because what I found being horrible, I was at my peak weight around 360 pounds, which is about 60 more than I'm at now. Not that I'm svelte by any means, but right around 300 is the weight I'd been most of my adult life. But especially early on, you don't have to worry about your balance because you really can't fall over in the water. And the hydrostatic pressure helps your heart and lungs work better, so you can do more exercise and not feel so winded and flushed and out of breath. And it was amazing for me. So yeah, I can't, and like I said, if you either want to do a series about it or talk with me off the air about it, or maybe even have somebody bring a phone down to where you do your classes and give some examples of exercises, I think it would be invaluable for people, because almost every gym, YMCA and whatnot has a pool that if you can get there, you can get in and do your thing. So yeah, I think that would be absolutely, not to string you along now that I got you on video once, but I really would love to promote that idea with you, because I think it would be invaluable for people for rehab. So, well, other than that, I'm just going to thank you for taking time to talk to me today. I'll quit recording and then we can say goodbye, and I get to spend time in the MRI tube today. Yay.
Oh.
Yeah. Hour and a half they're talking. They're going to do my thoracic and my lumbar spine. So they wouldn't listen and do it all at once. I think I might take 2 of my pain pills because I'm allowed to, and just kind of try and cloud right through it. So, all right, I'll quit recording, and that'll be it. Thanks again.
Thank you.